Hi, I'm Stephen with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. Welcome to my garden. On today's episode, I'm going to follow up on the max-min thermometers in my cold frames, and then later on I've got a special guest who's going to answer some questions. He's much more experienced with cold frames than I am. So this is the max-min thermometer, and we ended up with a maximum temperature from inside the cold frame of 26 degrees Celsius, which roughly equates to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and a minimum temperature of minus 4 degrees Celsius, which is 26 degrees Fahrenheit. And sorry if I'm off by a little bit. I apologize. The Fahrenheit is a little harder to read on this. And this is the one from outside of the cold frame with a maximum temperature, which is the current temperature of, in my garden at least, of 24 degrees Celsius, which is amazing. It is a super warm day. I'm very excited. And a minimum temperature of, actually oddly enough, the minimum temperature is minus 2 degrees Celsius, which is 29 degrees Fahrenheit. And that might have to do with the fact that this raised bed sits against my fence, which means it's probably melted, whereas this one is probably still got ice and frost in the soil itself, but we'll continue to monitor that. So my plans, and many of you have asked me this, my plans with these cold frames are to this year get an early start on my season. I'm likely going to relocate this to where I'm going to remove some of my strawberries later, just in case I monkey up and kill them. In this area here, I'm likely going to keep my strawberries alive, and over there I'll remove them to bring in some more space. The other one, what I want to do with that is I actually want to see if I can start watermelons direct sow into the garden a little bit early. I think what I might do, as some of you guys suggested, is to grab some containers, paint it black, fill it with water, and leave it in there. That way it kind of evens out the evening temperatures and kind of helps deal with that, so that maybe if I direct sow the watermelons in here, they're better able to germinate and get a head start on the season. If you have any tips on that, please let me know. I'm always more than welcoming the great tips and conversations that we have. So on to my special guest. I'm joined here by 1 Yard Revolution's Patrick. Patrick is a good friend of mine and has been using cold frames for years. So if you'd like to check out his channel, check out the link. It should be right above my head. So my first question is, and I'm sorry I'm reading here, Patrick, what kind of plants do best in cold frames?
Hi Stephen, thanks for having me on. Before answering your question, I'd just like to say I think it's great that you've built your cold frames. And I know you live in a very cold climate with a short growing season, so I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see how much more growing time you'll get with those cold frames. We use ours primarily to extend the season into the fall and winter months, and we focus on very cold hardy crops like spinach, kale, claytonia, mosh, tatsoi, and mizuna. There are many others you can try as well. But we also use the cold frames in the spring to get a jump on the growing season, both with our cold weather crops, and sometimes we'll even use them to harden off tomatoes, peppers, and things like that. So there really is a wide variety of crops that you can grow in cold frames, but we tend to focus on those that help us extend the growing season into the fall and winter.
Thank you, Patrick. My next question is, how do you use cold frames to direct sow into your garden?
A great example of that for us is we actually start our kale and collard green seeds in cold frames in the middle of winter in January or February. And they don't do much until late February or March, but it's really a great way to get an early start on those crops without tying up any room in the grow room, which is something I really like to do. You also save a lot of energy. So when possible, I really like using cold frames to start my seeds, and that's really my preferred method.
Thank you, Patrick. My third question is, do you have any tips and tricks for using cold frames in your garden?
I think my favorite tip of all is the idea of using a cold frame inside of a hoop house. Elliot Coleman says for every layer of protection that you use, you effectively move your garden one zone to the south. So if you were to use this approach, Stephen, you would move your garden from zone 3 in Alberta to zone 5, so that would be more the equivalent of where I am. And that can have a huge impact on extending the length of your growing season.
And my fourth question is there anything I should be aware of when using cold frames? Anything that would be good to know before you get into them?
One thing to keep in mind, especially this time of year with the sun getting higher in the sky, is just how hot it can get inside of a cold frame. Even on a cold day, if it's sunny outside, the temperature inside the cold frame could easily get up to 80 or 90 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter. So if you're starting cold weather crops, make sure to monitor your temperatures and check the forecast every day. And vent your cold frame if it's going to be sunny outside.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for taking the time to answer some of our questions. I appreciate it very much. If you haven't already checked out One Yard Revolution's channel, please do so. There'll be a link at the end of this video. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it very much. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please join us on Google Plus and Facebook. Those URLs can be found in the description below. Have a great day.